absolutely beautiful evening in spring as we celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Illinois Council for Exceptional Children. I'm just looking through my little notes to make sure that all is clear here. If anybody wants professional development credit, log into your ELIS account and complete the forms and add this PD credit. And then let me continue here that this is part of a year-long series. On the 15th day of each month in 2024, we are celebrating the 75th year that Illinois Council for Exceptional Children has been up and running, doing its amazing work. And we stop to consider foundational information that matters to us as we prepare for the next 75 years in Illinois CEC. 1 hour of professional development is available for each of these sessions. And this evening, it is my joy to welcome Lindsay Pollock Shelton, President of Illinois Council for, Freudian slip perhaps, Lindsay, President of the Illinois Division on Career Development and Transition, and her colleagues in IDCDT. Lindsay received her undergraduate degree in special education at Illinois State University and her master's degree at the University of Kansas. IDCDT is a subdivision of the National International DCDT. This special interest subdivision focuses on the transition of students with disabilities from school to adult life. Throughout the year, members of IDCDT meet at local, state, and regional, national, and international conferences. They get to know one another, share their knowledge and skills relative to their areas of specialty. Members of DCDT receive regular professional development journals and newsletter communications, including career development for education exceptional individuals and the DCDT network newsletter. Research in career development and transition is dedicated to bridging the gap between research and practice. CEC provides a video research snapshot series that highlights current secondary transition research that directly impacts the positive post-secondary outcomes of students. See the CEC website under the DCDT subdivision information. There's so much more there to share with you, and I would love to, but I'm going to now yield the floor to our colleague and her colleagues in Lindsay Pollock Shelton and her colleagues who will discuss personalized transition planning for successful futures of students with disabilities. Thank you, Lindsay and colleagues.
Thank you. Karen, do you want to present, or do you want me, how would you like me to do that?
I can share you know what, do you have access to share? But I do have your, do
you mind just putting it up there? I mean, we're probably just gonna breeze through a bunch of it.
Yeah, hold on, let me share my screen here.
Thank you. Well, look at that. Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen. Okay, so like Dr. Crowley said, we are the new leadership team for Illinois DCDT. And one of our big initiatives over the past 2 years, since we've kind of rejuvenated our Illinois subdivision for DCDT, was to not recreate the wheel, but really bring silos of professionals together to collaborate and to not everyone be so isolated around the state, right? So that's one thing that we've noticed the most. And so we've really been trying to take, maybe there's transition planning committees or organizations within certain school districts or specialties within colleges and universities. We really just wanted to have this be another opportunity for professionals to share ideas and to professionally develop and really network, because I don't know about you, but in the past 15 years that I've been in this field, and I've only been in transition, right? So this is my jam. And we'll kind of go through our panel and what all the leadership team members' roles are. But if you know someone in transition, they mostly don't change, right? They might change school districts, they might change state agencies, they might change organizations, they might change colleges. But really, once you start networking with people, that's your greatest strength, is understanding what's going on at the state level and how to inform students and families on what the next step is. I just wrapped up another email a little bit ago on a recent family in the area that hadn't been informed at all about any of their options. And so you just continuously have these people that you refer people to or provide additional information. So that's just my quick thing where a few years ago, Illinois DCDT tried to establish, kind of fell by the wayside. And I think a lot of us just kind of, with the help of Dr. Crowley, put our heads together. There was a ton of work that we had to do. We had to make sure that we started to become a not-for-profit at the state of Illinois. We had to receive money that was originally sent to the old Illinois DCDT, get it back from a bank. There were a lot of little things that are very tedious and, quite honestly, take up a lot of energy and bandwidth when this is clearly a volunteer position. And we all do this because I think we have a very similar personality. We like to problem solve. We like doing what's best for families and students. And we just really wanted to iron this out because, and I can say for a lot of us, CEC was never our jam, right? We were very committed to DCDT, and I had very little understanding of what CEC had to offer because I was so transition driven with VOC and that entire world. So thankfully that bridged into CEC, which kind of gets us to what we are today. But we've all been very involved in DCDT, either presenting at the national conferences or participating in their monthly town halls or quarterly town halls. We're very familiar with the people in the world of transition. And so we really wanted to make sure that new educators, seasoned professionals, and school districts and families were giving these resources as they were kind of going through the special education process. So when Dr. Crowley asked us to speak, I'm like, yep, I'm not doing it by myself. I really want our whole panel to do it. We all have very different experiences and have different roles. I was previously in a school district for 10 years as the transition facilitator. Met Murky, met Bank, met Commenda, all of these people in different capacities. And then I started my own transition consulting company. So what do I do now when I work with families? I know who to refer to. I know which programs are the best, but that's the world that you're in. And that's where this professional networking becomes so, so important. So that was another piece of the presentation that we kind of wanted to go over too. We are not your research people. We are not the college people. Murky and I always joke, like when we talk about statistics, we say like yada, 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 because we don't know what they are. We just know the numbers aren't good. And you need good people around you to kind of help facilitate some of these positive outcomes. And I don't mean to minimize any of the work of that, but like there is a specific person for that. And it is not me. At least I will speak for myself. It is not me. But I find myself to be pretty personable. And that's what a lot of this is just the relationships. Karen, can you go to the next slide? So we have a bunch of our membership here on our leadership panel. If you guys just want to go around and just introduce yourself and what your role is, how you got involved in transition, and yeah, what your role is professionally and then with the leadership board.
You want me to go first, Lindsay? Or you want us to go like in order down?
Nope, just jump on in.
I'll jump in then because my dogs are quiet right now. Michelle Bank, I am the transition coordinator at Mundelein High School. I previously was a special ed teacher and was very lucky and accepted a position as a transition specialist about 13, 14 years ago. And I haven't looked back. So Lindsay, you're correct. Once you go transition, it's kind of the way you want to stay. It's just a very amazing community. I think currently I do age 14 and a half all the way up through age 22, but primarily I am at the 18 to 22-year-old age range in our district's transition center. And I think when I look at transition, probably my two areas of love within the field are employment, and the second would be working with area agencies.
Hi, I'm Louisa Rapisarda, and I have been working in transition for a long time as well. I work at Cove School, and I am a transition specialist. I've been there for 13 years. And before that, I worked at the PACE program at National Louis for a long time. So I've been working with young adults for a long time, and I love it. My favorite parts actually are knowing about post-secondary programs and also working with the families and students. And I am the treasurer, I think.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Another thing that Louisa is really good at, we had to do this entire thing of articles of incorporation. And I don't know if you're in your units or your, like, it has been a mess, but she was able to untangle and find us the resources and network for us to get it done with. So it was the longest 2-year labor pain, but we just officially got it done. So thank you, Louisa. I don't think a lot of people even understand the amount of effort and energy that went behind that. So I just need to give you some more street cred.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I didn't really do much of anything, but I have good connections, so that helps.
So I'm happy to jump in next. So I'm Rachel Murky, and that does rhyme with turkey. And I do say that, and I know that sounds very silly, but you know that a lot of our families meet so many people as they go through their educational journey. And being the transition coordinator, I'm someone they may not meet until they're towards their end of their educational experience. And so maybe when they meet me and their child is only 10, they might realize when they're 12 or 13 or 14, hey, where's that turkey lady? Right? I'm ready to, and that's what they'll remember. And I go with it and it's okay. So I'm a transition coordinator and I work in 5 non-public therapeutic day schools. So my job is to really help those families and those IEP teams prepare for life after high school. Like Lindsay said, we all who get into transition, we kind of find it, we fall in love with it, and then we network and then we meet these people. So what brought me to DCDT and to be the current secretary of IDCDT was really the golf event. It was really the fact that they were doing an outreach to bring people into the organization, and I was a +1, which was fantastic. And when I walked into the event, lo and behold, I knew a lot of people there. And so I knew someone from this adult agency, and I knew someone from, working with them with another student. And so collecting these transition partners, I found was really key. And that's why I want to stay with IDCDT and really help this grow, because it's these partnerships and connecting, right? So, being in the non-public world, I'm connect with Louisa, and I'm also connect with Michelle Bank, because we have students in common, because I serve her students, but we're also on the Lake County Transition Council, Planning Council together. And of course, working with Bernadette Commenda, who will perhaps join us. She actually, her and I, my first year, we shared a student. So she was the district person, I was the outplacement person, and we met working, and that was really my first transition success story. So with that, and that's I think what we're kind of doing today, is we want to make sure that we're making these connections with everyone. I think Lindsay, and if you haven't heard, Lindsay and I met during the Chicago Marathon. So you just kind of keep bringing in people. And so maybe someone's on this call and they're like, hey, I remember you from that, beautiful April day at 7 o'clock, there was that turkey lady, or you're going to remember Lindsay, and you might find us at one of these events and hopefully make connections with us. And that's really why I love the IDCDT, as we collect as a group, and we expand our network of people. And then the other thing, just a pipe in there, is that this group also has our own kind of problem solving group as well, that if we need help on a transition resource and those kind of things, just tagging on. What's nice is that people know, because I work at like on a therapeutic day specifically for individuals with the autism spectrum. If they have a transition question about someone in autism in particular, and they know that's my area of expertise, other IDCDT members will send a little message and say, hey, Rachel, wondering if you know how, or Rachel, have you heard of this? So that's the other thing about those connections. When you find out where people's kind of passions lie, they kind of jump in with that. So just wanted to plug that in there.
Anybody else? Are we ready to go to the next slide?
I don't know if Bern's still there,
I
but
think we go to the next slide.
let's just go. Let's just do it. So we were kind of talking before this. There's nothing that we're going to say tonight that is going to blow your mind. It's not going to happen. And when we started thinking more about the content that we wanted to go through, it was less about the process of the quality of programming for the students or adults that you're working with, but it's more about rethinking program delivery for the students, right? Like, we know student-centered plans are the most ideal. We know authentic environments and relationships are going to provide us with positive outcomes. However, most school districts are having a difficult time staffing, right? So maybe you don't necessarily have quality transition specialists or quality voc rehab anything, right? So you're just kind of doing the best that you can with all of this. So, we clearly are not itemizing all these things to minimize all the work that goes into it. But I think when we meet more frequently with school districts and families, it's really rethinking how are these programs going to be delivered given a shortage of resources, whether that's people, whether that's a budget, whether that's transportation issues, whether that's length of students staying in programming at the schools due to their ages. There's been so many shifts over the past 5 years that really are having impacts with school and student programming. But we're going to briefly go through what this looks like a little bit. And then, if you guys have any questions for us, we always have our email listed at the end. You can go ahead, Karen. Okay, I'm not going to read this. However, when we talk about the student personalized transition planning, and Rachel and a lot of people had already said we're talking about agencies, right? We know what to do day to day. We know that employment exposure is going to increase student success rates post high school. We know that indicator 14 number is going to be incredibly higher if they have exposure early and often to employment and independent living opportunities. However, when we're looking at how that's going to look like when the students are going through the process, we really have been focusing on adult agencies and parents being informed of what these agencies look like. So while COVID and everything has changed a bunch of things, it's also decreased exposure parents to some of these agencies. So for example, if you're familiar with PUNS, the organizations used to come to the schools and they would do a spiel and maybe do PUNS enrollment, which would be an enormous relief for families and school districts. That connection is amazing. We talk about positive community integration all the time with agencies. Well, now a lot of these organizations are charging thousands of dollars for them to come out and to speak to families. Well, that poses an enormous problem for school districts with budgets that are significantly decreased. So now there's less informed parents that don't know next steps, right? And while we're looking at policy and ways to supplement that in improving IEP paperwork policies, handing a parent a PUNS brochure is still not going to ensure that they're signing up, renewing every year, and making sure that they have those correct agency linkages as they're moving forward. So those are a lot of the conversations that we have with, yes, this box is checked on the IEP. Yes, we're doing that, but like, really, how are you managing that? Or like, how are you shifting that with your staff? Who's responsible for that now? Or how are you providing these parent informed or parent information events? Because those are just the outside of school things now that really are becoming more supplemental to the IEP and the summary of performance plans. Anyone else want to add anything about that?
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts. One, this is not a conversation just for us. When I went to the national CEC conference, I had an opportunity to sit in on a couple of those big transition presentations, and there was, the ones for our national representation, and they were saying that they were having the same problem that we're having. So it's not just like us, right? It's how do we inform families? And so what they did is they opened up the conversation to the crowd, and we all know when it's quiet for 2 minutes, I want to raise my hand, which I did, of course. And one of the things that I talked about with the group there is, for a transition coordinator, we have a lot of work to inform our parents, but how do we do this in a way that also provides documentation? So then that way it can be part of their transition planning package. So this is just a little trick that I'm sharing with everyone. So what I choose to have, and not at the IEP meeting, but usually 3 months before an IEP meeting, I reach out to families and I ask them to have an informal transition chat or an informal transition discussion. Because we find a lot of our families, when they come into IEP meetings, they are feeling anxious. They are nervous. Maybe they've had previous IEP meetings where they just heard bad news that whole time. And really planning for life after high school can be so stressful. So what we found in our organization is when we have these pre-meetings, and I say the word informal, I have lifted the stress off of their shoulders. And we open up the conversation, not of what are your goals for this year, or what do you think of progress? We ask things about, what do you want for your kids' future? How do you see them being happy in their adult life? What are your nightmares that you're worried about? And so we have these very informal discussions, and then that way we can provide them with information so they're armed for these next steps when they go into their IEP meetings. And I find that informal transition planning time one-on-one with parents has been imperative to replace these other bigger events that they go to. And I know that Michelle just kind of jumped off camera, but I want to give credit for something that she does. She does partner a lot with some of, oh, she's back. Michelle, I was just saying that you do partner with some of your other districts in providing transition information. You're on mute.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry. I can't quite figure out the buttons. We partner with two other area local school districts, and we provide transition services to their young adults for them. So that's how we do it. But I would say even amongst us and amongst our local area transition TCP, I think we all are pretty great at just sharing that information with each other and each other's families. If one of us were hosting a transition night and it was another district's family present, I would certainly share information with them if their transition specialist wasn't there. And I know the other districts would do the same.
Did I skip way ahead in your presentation?
We're not following anything. You're doing just great, Karen.
Okay.
The only other thing that I wanted to mention, no, we're all over the place, was the culturally sensitive piece. I've been doing this long enough that we've had a translator here and there to translate IEP meetings, which anyone speaking English, IEP acronyms are extremely confusing. I've had my fair share of translators in a meeting, and I'm talking about puns, and I'm talking about, SSI, and I'm talking about all of these, government benefits supporting individuals with disabilities. And like every third word I would hear was like college. And I'm like, I don't know much Spanish, but like college is not what I'm talking about. So like anytime we have a Spanish speaking family that I am aware of, I will sit down with the translator ahead of time. Like I just did a puns information evening the other night and I like gave them the Spanish version of it. I gave them just like a snapshot of what it is because it's confusing, right? So to give them an idea of what that content is was really, really helpful because it's confusing for anyone. And then to have to try to communicate that to families, that has been really helpful as well. So again, we're all about a team approach. I think one thing that's unique about professionals in the world of transition, you are less likely to be the only person in your classroom. So for example, when I think of like a reading specialist or maybe like, I don't know, like there's one person in a classroom, right? You don't get to go to job sites. You don't get to partner with colleges. You don't get to do all these outside of these school events where you're really getting a better idea of all the stakeholders, right? You really see that backwards planning come in and you see how everything is intertwined. So I think that's just part of what this profession has to offer is you're really collaborating with people all the time. And I always tell families like I'm in this really, really unique role that I get to wear the hat of like, I know what they're entitled to. I know what they have to give you, but like as soon as you take your diploma, you're not getting any of it. So you have this unique hat of knowing what you get and what will be immediately taken away from you. And you know, I don't joke that it is, but sometimes we come into these meetings and we're like these dream crushers, and that's not the goal. However, there's been so many times that these families have been sold this like fluff story of this is great, they're leaders, this is that. And then all of a sudden they're hit with this very bold reality of what is available and what is not. So I think as those conversations start happening, and the more informed that they are about what these agencies have to offer, the less confusing it is. And you really just kind of are in both of those worlds. But again, it's all about helping the families and it's all about doing what's best for the kids. Yeah, we already went over that. You can go to the next slide. We already went over that. Yeah, you could do evaluations. We could do all this fun stuff. One of the things that I really like about all of that is we all have experience doing that, right? Like we may have like, oh, do you have like another assessment we should be using? Or I'm not really seeing this with observations. Like, how could I be using this? Or we know what these adult agencies are requiring in terms of standardized assessments in order for enrollment for these next steps. So letting the schools and letting the family knows what can be done ahead of time so they're not paying thousands and thousands of dollars post-graduation has been really helpful. Yep. Working on generalizing those soft skills. I wish students would be on the job earlier. So much earlier. So much earlier. And I would only say like team meetings and self-regulation or self-reflection. We can do that at the schools, but I truly, truly believe that's something that's really been helpful, not only at Illinois DCDT, but I felt like when I started going to the national DCDT conferences, like I wasn't the only one, right? Like maybe you come from a school district that you're the only one that's doing that and you're trying to inform 500 students, 500 sets of families. You know, there's so much to do and you're the one disseminating that information to your entire district or your entire cohort, and being involved with a larger organization that is saying, this is the best practice. These are the policies. These are the reasons that these things are set in place. These are the, you know, quality indicators that we're following for all of these decisions that are being made, big budget wise and small budget wise. So, it's been nice to have those conversations with people at the national level and then also be able to break down into those town halls or those like quarterly meetings to really get some ideas. So like, I think in the presentation we have coming up next week, National DCDT has a town hall and we're discussing sub-minimum wage jobs, right? I mean, who's thinking about that, right? The one transition person in the school district, right? If you're informed, if you're involved, if you know this is going on, if you have a, I don't want to say unqualified, but if you have an inexperienced new teacher overseeing all of this, that really is not part of what they teach you in school. It truly is just being in the field and understanding what comes next with some of this. So that's been a huge connection, is just being able to see what those policies are coming from. You can go to the next thing. Here's 3 resources that are fantastic. They're all free for families and professionals. NTAC is amazing. There's all of these free resources. We do not have this really at the state of Illinois, although there is Illinois Career Transition to Work, and it is amazing. Check it out. They have a conference coming up in April. Bank, are you presenting there? ICTW? Okay. So I know Murky, me, and Bank are presenting there. But it's a very new group of professionals that are from University of Illinois. They do the most incredible work. They will, what's the word that I'm looking for? They will like assess your program on needs and what could be improved. I mean, just reach out to them. They are incredible. Illinois ICTW, they're great. This will be my first conference that I'm going to of theirs, so I'm looking forward to going again, or the first time. Hopefully I can go again.
There's a message in the comment that David said that it is sold out. It's been actually sold out for a hot minute there. It's a very big ticket to get.
Just kidding, you're not welcome anymore.
Yeah.
Try again, 2025.
Yeah. But I think what's good about it as well is they've got a lot of good resources, and they have YouTube videos where you can go through and you can kind of get some of that information. For new people that I'm working with, a lot of us have a lot of window time where we're commuting for about 45 minutes or so. I tell them just take that YouTube video and kind of turn it into a podcast. And they can kind of just listen to it as they're going. Don't watch the video when you're driving, but just listen to it, because they're very knowledgeable and they've got a lot of that, what I would describe transition 101 information for new people to kind of get access to.
So if you're not already a member, you should totally become a member. We, in the past 2 years, have tried to have a bunch of different platforms. We really tried to push out professional development opportunities. I know last year we offered monthly PD opportunities at 3 different times during the day. We would do a 7 a.m., a 4 p.m., and a 7 p.m. to gauge membership availability. This year we kind of scaled it back to a town hall meeting every month on a topic. We did coffee chats every once in a while. We had a networking opportunity, not this past fall, the previous fall. And that was the one that Murky was talking about. And, it's tricky, right? Like Illinois is so big. So we're in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. We didn't really get a ton of people, or really anyone from central Illinois or southern Illinois. But we're really hoping to kind of get more membership involvement from those places in the state. We attended the Options Fair last year. It's a parent resource fair where post-secondary program and agencies come and speak with families. And Illinois DCDT and DCDT in general just have like a family membership that they can do for resources. And we've really tried to push that out a lot. And I don't know about you, but I feel like post-COVID world, the good thing about family involvement is they're more informed. I felt like before they were like seeking information, but now families are coming forward with a little bit more knowledge of what the next step is, which is great, right? So families are just looking for anything and the supports necessary in order to complete the next step on their list. I think that's it. Is there next one? We have our national conference coming up in October. It's in Chantilly. I have never been there. I don't know anything about it. I hear it is breathtaking. If you're interested in submitting a proposal, I think that that's open until, I want to say, like July maybe. But go ahead. They do an enormous poster session. They have tons of breakout sessions. But really, I think the difference between educators or the difference in education is we don't necessarily think people want to hear what we have to say. And I think educators are thirsty for it. They truly want to go and get more resources and bring it back to their district with a new, fresh set of eyes. So please consider putting a proposal out. And And we were just in Reno last year. I think the year before that, we were in Myrtle Beach. We've been all over the place. It's great, but it's a wonderful, wonderful conference. I don't know if you've been to the Illinois Transition conference. We've been there for years. It's a very good transition 101. But if you're really looking to bring more resources and a stronger muscle back to your school district, you definitely want to be attending this convention. It's amazing. People at the exec board level and at the national level are easy to work with. They want to hear your feedback. So I think the next slide is the upcoming town hall information. I remember during COVID, just kidding, maybe I took it out. I remember during COVID, I started attending some of these things and I was like, I don't know if I should be attending these. I don't think I'm like nationally important, and like they're extremely welcoming. So whatever interest you have, whatever skill set you have, they are open to have anyone in the world of transition look into advocacy, look into bylaws and policies, look into best practices, really looking into anything in the world of transition. So that is our shared Illinois IDCDT email. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. We have a Twitter or X account, and we have some events that we post on Facebook. So just give us a like or start following. We've really been trying to have a social media presence just to be able to push out some of these events. So if this really isn't your jam, but you know that you have a newer teacher in your district that would really benefit from some of these resources, please push it out to them. I know it's really, really difficult with family and friends and dogs and jobs and sports to attend in real-time events. So that was great that we were recording this tonight, but you know, these presentations are always available. So just feel free to reach out to any of us at any time. We geek out about this stuff all the time. So we are happy to connect and collaborate whenever. And I did not mean to monopolize that. Who else wants to talk? Someone ask a question.
I think, Lindsay, you're speaking on behalf of all of us. I think that's why you see, like, you know, Michelle and I kind of nodding, right? Transition people, we love this stuff. We love chatting about it. So please reach out and connect, but absolutely. And thank you, Lindsay, really, for being someone that headed all of this. I know it was an undertaking to kind of try to help bring this and really work on engagement. And I know a lot of this has been by your effort. So on behalf of the rest of your team on IDCDT, just want to say a big thank you for making this even happen. Because I think 2 years ago, I don't even think I would have thought that we would be on an Illinois Zoom call. And I think a lot of it is because of you and what you do for all of us. So thank you, Lindsay.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And thank you for letting all of us talk, Dr. Crowley. This was great.
A joy. And I'm going to, let's see if I can change this here. Yeah, it's a joy to hear, and it's an inspiration. Like Shanita says, you know, like all our wonderful divisions in CEC, you know, every one of them, let me see now, exit full screen. Let's see, side by side. What am I doing here? Hide, Karen, what do I choose? Let's get the regular view without, yeah. Let's see. Speaker view gallery. Oh, perfect. Lovely to see you all. Thank you for being here. But, you know, each and every CEC, you said so many important things, like how CEC connects people. We get to know one another, and we get to share our knowledge and share our experience, you know, and it all with the just complete devotion to trying to do the best for the families and for the children and the adults and the, you know, lives of people, and the difference we know we can make. And that's what CEC is, and that's what each of the subdivisions is all about, you know. So transition, what a great thing it is that we think about and devote ourselves to the varied aspects. You know, when I think about transition, I think about so it's life. It's about how do you enhance the independence, the self-realization, you know, the dignity, the unique person. And you know, it's so much more than just one piece or two pieces, you know. So And then I'm so happy to see on our call here tonight, we have people who focus on, Shanita does the diverse exceptional learners. Just imagine children coming into us with hugely different cultural and linguistic backgrounds. And here they are, they might have, who knows what special needs, but and the families too. So I love that we have experts who can communicate across different cultural identities and work creatively. Then of course we have others. Who else is here? I know David is here, and he works with students who wind up in the juvenile detention centers of our world, and you'd wonder, oh my goodness, so legal is in, and how do you ever help them navigate through? So, what else can we say about CEC as a wonderful connector for us all? Beverly is here, and she does behavior and all the work she does. Michelle, jump in, dear.
I was going to jump in because I saw a question come across the screen about where can someone go if they have an adult child being scammed by the family. So when they're younger, you're going to obviously go to, what's it called?
DCFS.
DCFS, yes. When they're older, it's for our area, it's Catholic Charities would pick that up. And that's Catholic Charities. I'm in the Lake County, Chicago. So Catholic Charities is who would pick up any kind of that would be considered abuse to an individual with a disability. So it would get reported out to Catholic Charities, and then they go in and investigate the case.
Because you're talking about Illinois Inspector General.
Right. The other place I would say would be the local police department for the county in which, or I'm sorry, city in which the individual lives, and file a police report. But it would definitely, if you wanted investigated, it's Catholic Charities for abuse against an individual with disability.
Yeah, the family hasn't tried that yet, so thank you. That's very helpful. And then the Inspector General?
That would be who would pick it up through Catholic Charities.
All right, so Catholic Charities would make a referral regardless of the religion of the family.
Correct. That has nothing to do with it.
Inspector
That's just who
Okay.
picks up those cases to investigate.
Okay. That's very helpful.
And I do know those situations are out there, and that may be something that would be bigger than this call. So, Bev, you can reach out to any of us.
Any of us, yeah.
Unfortunately, we've had experience with that, so we can kind of talk separately on something maybe that's not on this venue.
Yeah, and we
But
can
reach
get
out
you.
for sure.
Unfortunately, we have their hotline.
Yes, because it occurs to me that we need to be educating families on what can happen to their young adults. And this family did not get guardianship of the son because he has a learning disability, and yet he was very vulnerable.
Yep.
Illinois Guardianship is another one. Do you find yourselves working with the Illinois Guardianship Association?
They would often come to our resource events, which was really helpful. And it's tricky because I feel like unless you're specifically thinking of that, families are like, I'm not really thinking of those situations. But I remember we would always provide it in our resource manual, or they have access to it.
Mm-hmm. It's so much, Lindsay, it's so much for families to think about and face, like guardianship and thinking about, something, there's so much all just comes upon a person as they think about adulthood and independence and money and health and big things, no longer small things, so it's a very big area, transition planning. I love your info. Rachel, I would highly recommend that you write something for the journal for the exceptional teaching exceptional. I wish it weren't called children, but something, the informal meeting 3 months in advance, that idea is such a wonderful idea because it helps people be prepared, and just really a great thing to write up, and just even example questions. Like, I loved your sample questions. What would be your worst, what do you not want to happen? That's a good question to pose. And so many more things. So, what do you want for your child's future, your young man, your young woman's future? So I would highly recommend you do something with that, and don't just kind of keep it for yourself and those lucky ones around you, put it out into something, a kind of a practice journal, and I'll actually help you if you'd like.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't have to be long either. It can be like 1 page or 2 pages, Yeah, so fun. I love that you all are committed to something you love. That's such a wonderful gift, really. David, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, first, thank you for presenting. And as you know, transition is so much more complicated now than it was 10 or 20 years ago. And we lament in our area, and I'm sure you do, that the elementary and middle school teachers often have no clue and no connections. And then you talk about people upset because sometimes there's misled or not redirected authentically, and then you get to high school. But I was also going to throw out a plug for the Illinois Center for Transition and Work besides the conference. And I know Rachel and Lindsay are presenting. And so besides recommending that, they are supported by the Illinois State Board of Education. They'll come to any school district in the state of Illinois and help. They offer something called targeted technical assistance. You can apply for that, and they'll help revamp and redo your transition plans. I'm trying to get them into all the juvenile detention centers and Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice in Illinois as well, because there's a great need there, and they're also often poorly staffed and understaffed, and besides trying to hire transition coordinators or transition workers, they have trouble hiring even teachers. So ICTW, I'm throwing a plug there for you. They're at your beck and call if you need them. I know they're going to be working.
Yeah.
That's my dogs. Okay.
Lindsay, one of the things I'd like to affirm again is how starting early, like David said, middle school teachers, they already, those soft skills you talk about, it's just the earlier you start, even helping with anything at home, helping with anything, being aware of your surroundings, being careful, being thoughtful about, if I do this, what happens, kind of thing. So the earlier we start, even youngest children, if only teachers in preschools could know that hanging up your little coat where it belongs and you're putting back the items you just played with, that's all such good foundation to build on going forward,
Yeah, we always just talk about all those assumed skills that, they get on a job and they have no idea how to say hi to their employer, right? Like missing the ball, off-putting, right? So, we kind of catch those things later on where we're kind of trying to pass along those things to individual minutes with related services, or passing it along to group opportunities, because we expect them to kind of come in with certain things, and 9 times out of 10 they don't, and we just work with what we got.
Yeah, you could see the collaboration with early childhood and young elementary levels, and even letting teachers know the difference they make, I'm sure they know them, maybe many know themselves, but reaffirming that and letting them know that you see it down the road, you see it a decade down the road, that it did happen or didn't happen. That's an incredible message, really,
And are you all doing anything with, I saw a program in Florida that's training individuals with autism to go out on job interviews, and they're using avatars to practice job interviewing. And I wondered whether you all are doing anything with that and what your thoughts are on it.
That's a
I
great.
would love to jump in first, because there's a couple of projects with that, and actually, I was involved with the research. So, not probably the one that you saw in Florida, but we were part of a program that was testing. It was on Molly. That was the interviewer's name, and it was a almost like a video game interaction
Mhm.
where our students on the autism spectrum, they had an opportunity to have a response based on their choices. So there would be, interview questions, and then there would be the social cues in the bottom. If you answered well, someone would be in the background and they'd be like, and if they didn't interview well, they'd be like, and then they had the interviewer then responded to the questions. So if the student responded appropriately, then the interviewer would continue to respond appropriately, right, as you would engage. But if the student went a little bit sideways, the questions got a little bit shorter, the interviewer got a little bit annoyed. So actually, it was a really amazing process because our students got very engaged. There was, of course, they earned some sort of credit and coin at the end, which is highly motivating for a lot of our students because they wanted to level up in their interviewing. So for them, they found the connection. I think the only thing for me is I want to know, how are those skills going to be generalized? Our students are great on a screen, right? They actually learn the rules and the systems on the screen. But then when they go out in the quote unquote real world and they're engaging with someone, in a different way that goes off script, that's very hard. But it is introducing a lot of language and vocabulary, and I really like that. So I am open to all things, and I know not everything is going to fit for every kid. We've learned that about curriculum, but I think, having these AI components, I think are very positive. I also just went to the town hall about AI. I believe that was last month. I thought that was a really engaging conversation because they talked about AI in the educational setting and with transition, and we kind of had that conversation as well, and students using that technology. Like everything, it's a tool, and teaching how we use tools, I think is cool. So I've seen it kind of in action. I don't think this is the end. I think it's just going to expand even more, right? We had a presentation at our local college for neurotypical college kids. So I think it's going to go past individuals on the spectrum. I think some of it is targeted, specifically because we know this is an area of deficit, but I think it's something that is good for everyone. And I think that it's going to be open to other participants.
Thanks.
Wow. Thank you all so very much. Maybe closing comments of any sort, anything that you feel like, I wish I could say this, or I wish I had said it already, or you want to pick up something maybe that you'd like to flesh out a little more, or
If you end up having a good night of sleep and want to email us, I got my email on the presentation. We are happy to get back to you anytime.
Excellent. Thank you, Lindsay, so very much. And thank you, Rachel. And thank you, Michelle and Louisa and Bea and Bernadette. And Karen, thank you so much for being there.
Karen.
Yeah, so fun. I love sharing this, sharing the joy of this work. And very good. So now with that, respecting people's schedules and everything, thank you. Much appreciated.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a great night.